The night my wife asked for a divorce. Everyone expected me to fight. They expected anger. They expected tears. They expected me to remind her of everything I had done for her. But I didn't. I just smiled because after 10 years of marriage I finally understood something. You can't convince someone to value what they have already decided is holding them back. The ballroom was filled with applause. Hundreds of people stood around us. Executives, investors, employees, people who came to celebrate my wife's greatest achievement. Claire Bennett had finally reached the top. Her technology company had just been named one of the fastest-growing companies in the country. Everyone wanted to shake her hand. Everyone wanted to be close to her. Everyone wanted a piece of her success. And I was standing in the corner watching the woman I loved become someone the world admired. Claire stood on stage wearing a beautiful white dress. She looked confident, powerful, untouchable, exactly like the person she had always dreamed of becoming. I remembered another version of her. A woman sitting on the floor of our tiny apartment with tears in her eyes. A woman holding a failed business proposal. A woman whispering, "Ethan, maybe I'm not good enough." And I remembered holding her hand telling her, "You are." Back then nobody believed in Claire. Not the investors, not the banks, not even her own friends. But I did because I knew something they didn't. Claire wasn't someone who failed. She was someone who hadn't succeeded yet. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. Her voice echoed through the room. The crowd applauded. I smiled. I was proud of her. Even now, that was the most painful part. I was still proud of the woman who was about to break my heart. Claire looked around the room. I spent years building this company. Another round of applause. I sacrificed a lot to get here. I lowered my eyes because I knew what came next. She continued, "Success requires difficult choices." The room became quiet. Sometimes you have to let go of the things that prevent you from becoming who you are meant to be. My chest tightened. Not because I didn't understand, because I did. I understood before she said it. Claire looked directly at me. "Ethan." Every person in the room turned. I stood still. "I think we need to talk about our future." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. "I love you." The word surprised me. For a second, a small part of me hoped. Then she continued, "But I don't think our marriage is helping me anymore." Silence. Complete silence. "Claire." My voice was quiet. She looked away. "I know how it sounds." She took a breath. "But I feel like I've spent years trying to become someone different." Her eyes moved across the room. "Someone who belongs in this world." I looked around at the people watching, at the people who only knew Claire after success. Nobody knew the nights she cried. Nobody knew the failures. Nobody knew the sacrifices except me. "I need freedom," she said. "I need to know who I can become without feeling responsible for everything holding me back." Everything holding her back. Those words hurt more than divorce because I knew what she meant. She wasn't just leaving our marriage. She was leaving the version of herself that needed me. Someone whispered behind me, "Is she really divorcing him?" Another voice answered, "Maybe he couldn't keep up with her anymore." I heard every word, but I didn't react because maybe that was exactly what Claire believed too. For 10 years I had been behind her, supporting her, protecting her, making sacrifices she never noticed. And somehow I had become the thing she wanted to escape. Claire stepped down from the stage. She walked toward me. "I didn't want to hurt you." I looked at her. "Then why do it here?" Her expression changed for the first time. She looked uncomfortable. "I thought you would understand." I almost laughed because that was the strange thing. Claire always believed I understood everything. My feelings, my sacrifices, my patience, everything except this. She handed me a folder. I opened it. Divorce papers. The old Ethan would have asked, "Can we fix this? Can you give me another chance? Is there someone else?" But the old Ethan had spent 10 years proving his love tonight. I was tired of proving something that should have been obvious. I took the pen. Claire stared at me. "You don't want to talk." I looked at her. "I think you've already made your decision." I signed. Her expression changed. Not relief, not happiness. Confusion. "You signed." I nodded. "Yes." But she paused. "I thought you would fight." I looked at her and quietly said, "Claire, I spent 10 years fighting for us." Pause. Tonight, I realized I was the only one fighting. Nobody spoke. I reached into my pocket. I took out a small wooden box and placed it in her hand. She looked confused. "What is this?" "Something I kept for a long time." "Why give it to me now?" I smiled. Because someday I looked at her. You'll understand why I left. Then I turned around and walked away. No anger, no revenge, no final speech, just silence. Outside the ballroom, the cold air hit my face. For the first time in 10 years, I wasn't thinking about Claire's future. I was thinking about mine. My phone rang. It was my old employer, a place I had left years ago. A career opportunity one gave up because Claire needed me. I answered, "Hello." A familiar voice said, "Ethan, we weren't sure if you'd ever call back." I looked at the city lights, then smiled. "I think I'm ready now." Behind me inside the ballroom, Claire stood there holding the small wooden box. She thought she had finally removed the thing holding her back. She had no idea. The person she let go was the person who had been carrying her forward all along. People often see success and assume it happened overnight. They see the company, the awards, the interviews, the confidence. They see Claire Bennett standing on a stage surrounded by people who admire her. But they never saw the woman sitting on the floor of our apartment at 2 o'clock in the morning, wondering if her dream was worth chasing. I did. I saw every version of her, the confident one, the broken one, the scared one, and I loved every single one. The day after the anniversary celebration, I woke up in a hotel room, not because I had nowhere to go, because I needed somewhere without memories. The apartment I shared with Claire for 10 years was full of reminders. The kitchen where I made her breakfast. The couch where we watched movies after difficult days. The small balcony where we celebrated every little victory. Leaving that place felt like cutting away a part of my life. But staying would have meant pretending nothing had changed, and everything had changed. My phone was full of messages, friends, colleagues, people asking if I was okay. But there was one message I kept staring at. From Claire, "Can we talk?" 3 words, 3 simple words. A year ago, I would have answered immediately. I would have driven anywhere at any time for any reason. But this time I put my phone down. Not because I wanted to punish her, because for the first time in 10 years, I didn't know how to fix something. Everyone thinks the beginning of the end is the moment someone leaves. It isn't. The beginning happens much earlier. It starts with small things, a forgotten conversation, a missed dinner, a moment when someone stops seeing you. For Claire and me, it started years before the divorce papers. Before the company became successful, before people started calling her a genius. It started when she was still nobody. I met Claire Bennett on a rainy evening outside a small coffee shop. She was sitting alone at a table. A laptop in front of her, 3 empty coffee cups beside her, and a notebook filled with handwritten ideas. I almost walked past, but then I noticed her expression. She wasn't working. She was staring at the screen like it had just rejected her. "Bad news?" I asked. She looked up. Her eyes were tired. 5 investors rejected my proposal today. I looked at the laptop. "Fuck." She nodded. "Maybe they are right." I sat across from her. "About what?" She gave a small laugh. "About me." That was Claire, the woman nobody saw. The woman behind the CEO title. She could stand in front of hundreds of people and speak confidently. But back then, one rejection could make her question everything. "You really believe this idea can work?" I asked. She looked surprised. "What?" "Because you look like someone who believes it." She smiled sadly. "Believing isn't enough." "Maybe." I shrugged. "But giving up definitely won't make it happen." She looked at me. "Are you always this optimistic?" "No." I smiled. "I just think people quit too early." That was our first conversation. I didn't know it then, but that night changed both of our lives. A few months later, Claire started her company. The first year was brutal. She worked constantly. Sometimes 16 hours a day. Sometimes she forgot to eat. Sometimes she forgot to sleep. But she never forgot her dream. I still remembered the night she came home after losing another investor. She threw her bag on the floor, then sat silently. I knew something was wrong. "Claire," no answer. "Talk to me." Finally, she whispered, "Maybe I'm not talented enough." Those words broke my heart. Not because they were true, because they weren't. I walked over and sat beside her. "Look at me." She didn't. "Claire." Slowly. She looked up. "You are the hardest working person I've ever met." She shook her head. "No." "Yes." "You don't know that." I smiled. "I do." Then I said something I would repeat for years. "You don't need everyone to believe in you." Pause. "You just need one person who does." She looked at me. "You're that person." I smiled. "Yes." Back then, I didn't realize those words would become my promise. A promise that would shape the next 10 years of my life. When Claire couldn't afford an office, I used my savings to help rent one. When she needed someone to review presentations, I stayed awake with her. When she doubted herself, I reminded her who she was. There were nights when I came home exhausted from my own job, but Claire needed help. So, I stayed because seeing her succeed mattered to me. The biggest opportunity of her career came 2 years later. A major investor agreed to meet her, but the meeting was on the same day I had a final interview for a promotion. The promotion I had spent years working toward. I still remember sitting in my car. My interview was in 30 minutes. Claire called. Her voice was shaking. Ethan, I knew immediately what happened. The investor moved the meeting. When today I looked at the building in front of me, my future. Then I looked at my phone. The woman I loved. Where are you? I asked downtown. I started the car. Stay there. I missed my interview. I never got that promotion, but Claire got the investment that night. She hugged me. Tears in her eyes. Ethan, I don't know what I would do without you. I smiled. You won't have to find out. Years later, she would forget that moment. She would forget many moments. Not because they weren't important, because success has a strange way of making people forget the road they walked to get there. The company grew. Claire became busier. Her name became valuable. Her time became expensive. And slowly I became something she no longer noticed. But I didn't leave when she forgot my birthday. I didn't leave when she missed our anniversary dinner. I didn't leave when she started introducing me as my husband, Ethan. Like it was a title, not a person. I stayed because I remembered the woman from that rainy night, the woman who needed someone to believe in her. But then one evening I heard something that changed everything. Claire was talking with one of her executives. She didn't know I was nearby. The executive asked, Claire, are you really sure about making these changes? Claire sighed, I just feel like there are parts of my old life that keep me from becoming who I need to be. I stopped walking because I knew what she meant. Then she said, Ethan is a good person. Pause. But sometimes her voice lowered. I feel like our marriage belongs to the person I used to be. Those words stayed with me. Not because they were cruel, because they were honest. For 10 years I helped Claire become someone new. But somewhere along the way she started believing the person who helped her grow was the person preventing her from growing further. That night I made a decision. Not suddenly, not out of anger, but after years of silently accepting less than I deserved. I would let Claire go because sometimes loving someone means staying beside them, and sometimes it means stepping away when they no longer see you standing there. The next morning, Claire woke up thinking everything would return to normal. She thought I would eventually understand. She thought I would come back. She thought Ethan Walker would always be waiting, but she didn't know. The man who spent 10 years helping her chase her dream was finally going to chase his own. Success is a strange thing. When people have nothing, they look for someone who will stand beside them. But when they finally reach the top, sometimes they start wondering if the person beside them still belongs there. That was what happened to Claire. She didn't wake up one morning and stop loving me. It happened slowly. A little distance, a little silence, a little less we, until one day I realized I was standing beside someone who no longer saw me. 3 months after Claire's company received its first major investment, everything changed. At first I was happy, more than happy. I was proud. The woman I believed in was finally being recognized. The world was finally seeing what I had always known. Claire Iyer Bennett was extraordinary. Her company moved into a bigger office. She appeared in business magazines. She attended meetings with investors who once ignored her. People who used to reject her emails were now asking for her time. I watched all of it happen and I smiled because every success she achieved felt like a victory for both of us. But somewhere along the way, Claire stopped saying our company became my company. Our dream became my vision. Our future became my next step. At first I didn't notice. Or maybe I didn't want to notice because accepting the truth meant admitting something painful. The woman I helped build a future for no longer imagined me in it. One evening, Claire came home after midnight. Again I was sitting on the couch waiting. Not because I was angry, because I missed her. That was the part she never understood. I wasn't waiting to complain. I was waiting because I wanted to spend time with my wife. She walked in and froze. Ethan. I looked up. You're home. She glanced at the clock. It's late. I know. Pause. Why are you still awake? I smiled slightly. Because I wanted to see you for a moment. Something softened in her eyes. Then her phone rang. She looked at the screen. An investor. The softness disappeared. I need to take this. She walked away. I sat there alone again when she finally returned. Almost an hour had passed. Sorry. It's okay. She looked at me. You always say that. I didn't answer because she was right. I always said that, Claire. Yeah. Do you remember when we used to celebrate small things? She looked confused. What do you mean? The first contract, the first employee, the first time we could afford a better apartment. She smiled slightly. That was a long time ago. A long time ago. Those words hurt because that was the beginning of everything. The time when we had nothing. The time when we had each other. You know what I miss? I asked. What? I miss when you were excited to tell me things. She looked tired. Then I'm exhausted. I know. No, I don't think you do. Her voice became sharper. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. I became quiet. Because that wasn't true. I understood. I understood better than anyone. I had been there when she cried. I had been there when she wanted to quit. I knew exactly how much pressure she carried. But then she said something I never forgot. You don't understand my world anymore. Silence. I looked at her. Your world. She sighed. That's not what I meant. But again it was because suddenly I realized something. Claire didn't see me as the person who helped her enter that world. She saw me as someone standing outside it. A few weeks later she invited me to a company gala. I was excited. Not because of the event, because I thought maybe this was a chance for us to reconnect. I wore a simple dark suit, the same one I had worn to important moments in my own life. When I arrived, Claire was already surrounded by executives. She looked incredible, confident, powerful. Everyone wanted to talk to her. Then one of her business partners approached. Claire, is this your husband? She smiled. Yes. Pause. This is Ethan. The way she said my name bothered me. Not because it was wrong, because it sounded like she was introducing someone from another chapter of her life. The man smiled. Nice to meet you. Then he looked at Claire. You two met before the company, right? Claire nodded. Yes. He laughed. Then Ethan must have known the old Claire. The old Claire. That phrase stayed with me because I wondered, did Claire still like that person or did she only love who she became? Later that night, I saw Claire talking with another executive. I wasn't trying to listen, but I heard my name. You never bring Ethan to these events, the executive said. Claire Eyre smiled awkwardly. He's not really comfortable in this environment. I stopped because that wasn't true. I wasn't uncomfortable. I was invisible. Then the executive asked, does he understand what you're building? Claire hesitated. And that hesitation hurt more than any answer. I think. She looked away. I think Ethan represents the life I had before. The life I had before, not the man who supported me, not the person who believed in me, not my partner, just a past. That night I drove home alone. Claire stayed at the event for the first time in 10 years. I didn't wait. When she came home, she found me sitting at the kitchen table. There were documents in front of me. She frowned. What are those? I looked at her. Things I need to handle. What things? I closed the folder. Things about my future. She smiled slightly. You sound serious. I nodded. I am. Maybe she noticed something was different. Maybe she saw that I wasn't asking her to choose me anymore. Ethan, yes. Are you unhappy? That question surprised me because after 10 years, it was the first time she asked. I looked at the woman I loved and answered honestly. I think I became unhappy when I realized I was the only one trying to protect our marriage. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. The next morning, Claire received an invitation. A major business event, one where she would announce her company's biggest expansion, a moment she had dreamed about for years. She didn't know. That same day, I received a call about the opportunity one gave up 10 years ago. The opportunity one sacrificed for her dream. And for the first time, I had a choice. Stay behind someone else's success or finally step toward my own life. There is a difference between leaving someone and abandoning them. Abandoning someone means you stop caring. Leaving someone means you finally understand that staying is destroying you. For 10 years I stayed because I loved Claire. I stayed through the failures. I stayed through the sleepless nights. I stayed when nobody knew her name. But eventually I had to ask myself one question. If I disappeared tomorrow, would she miss me? Or would she simply miss what I did for her? The morning after Claire's expansion announcement, I made my decision. I accepted the offer, the one I had ignored for years. A position at a technology firm in Seattle. A leadership role, the kind of opportunity one dreamed about before Claire's company started growing. The kind of opportunity one gave up because she needed someone beside her. When the recruiter called me, he asked, Ethan, why did you wait so long to answer? I looked at the old photo on my desk. Claire and me, young, smiling. Before everything became complicated, I had other priorities. The recruiter was silent. Then he said, "Well, we're glad you're ready now." Ready? That word stayed in my mind because maybe I wasn't ready before. Maybe I spent 10 years preparing someone else for success while forgetting I had my own dreams. I didn't tell Claire immediately. Not because I wanted revenge. Not because I wanted her to panic. I simply didn't know how. How do you tell someone you love? I am leaving because I finally realized I disappeared while helping you become someone else. 3 days later, Claire came home early. That was unusual. She usually worked until midnight. She placed her bag down and looked at me. "We need to talk." I almost smiled those words again. The same words from the night. Everything changed. Okay. She sat across from me for a moment. She just looked at me. Then she said, "I've been thinking about what you said. I waited about feeling like you're the only one protecting this marriage." I didn't respond because I didn't know what to say. For years, I wanted her to understand. Now that she finally did, I was already tired. "I don't want you to think I don't appreciate you." I looked at her. Claire. She stopped because we both knew. Appreciation wasn't the same as love. "I know I've been busy." She continued. "I know things changed." I nodded. "They did." She looked hurt. "Do you really think I don't care about you?" That question was difficult because the answer wasn't simple. I didn't think Claire was heartless. I didn't think she stopped loving me. I thought something worse. I thought she forgot how to love me. "I think you care about me," I said. Her expression softened. "But I don't think you see me anymore." Silence. She looked down for the first time in a long time. Claire didn't have an answer. That night I packed my things. Not everything. Just enough. Claire stood in the doorway watching. "You are really leaving?" I nodded. Her eyes widened slightly. "I thought you were just upset." I smiled sadly. I was a pause, but I have been upset for years. She looked at the suitcase, then at me. "Where will you go?" I hesitated. "Seattle." Her expression changed. "Seattle?" "Yes." "What?" I looked at her because I got an opportunity. She was quiet, then asked, "What opportunity?" I told her, the company, the position, the future. For a moment, I saw something in her eyes. Surprise. Maybe even pride. Then something else appeared. Confusion. "You never told me about this." I smiled. "No." "What?" "Because I already knew the answer. But I said it anyway because every time something happened in my life, I wondered if it would affect yours first." Claire froze. "You never asked me to sacrifice those things." She whispered. I nodded. "You're right." Pause. I chose to. That hurt her more. Because she realized something. I wasn't blaming her. I was telling the truth. "I thought you were happy," she said softly. I was. I looked around our home. "I was happy because you were happy." She looked at me. "And now I picked up my suitcase. Now I want to know who I am when I'm not just supporting someone else's dream." For the first time, Claire looked afraid, not angry, not annoyed, afraid. Then I stopped. "Yes. Do you still love me?" The question I had waited years to hear. The question that once would have made me stay. I looked at her. "Yes." Her eyes filled with tears. But I nodded. "But loving you doesn't mean I can keep losing myself." She didn't stop me. That was the painful part. She just stood there watching me leave. Outside the house, I sat in my car for several minutes. My hands were shaking. Not because I regretted leaving, because I was grieving. You can know something is right and still feel heartbroken. Meanwhile, Claire stood inside the empty house. For the first time in 10 years, she noticed how quiet everything was. No coffee in the morning, no dinner waiting after long meetings. No one asking if she had eaten. No one reminding her to rest. She walked into the kitchen. On the counter was an old notebook. My notebook. She opened it. Inside were years of notes, things she had never seen. A page from 5 years ago. "Claire has another investor meeting tomorrow. She is scared, but I know she will succeed." Another page. I turned down the promotion again. "Maybe next year. Claire's company needs stability right now." Another. "She thinks she is failing. I wish she could see herself the way I see her." Claire's hands started shaking because suddenly she understood. Ethan wasn't standing behind her because he had no ambition. He was standing behind her because he loved her. The next morning, Claire arrived at her office. Everyone expected her to celebrate, but instead she asked her assistant, "Can you find Ethan's old records?" The assistant looked confused. "What?" Claire looked at the city outside because for the first time she wanted to know the truth. And what she discovered next would change everything she believed about her success, because the man she thought was slowing her down had quietly given up the life he wanted so she could have the one she dreamed of. Claire always believed success was built by the strongest person in the room. She believed the person who reached the highest position deserved all the credit. She believed every achievement had her name written on it. And maybe that was why she never looked behind her. Because if she had, she would have seen the person who carried the weight when she couldn't. The first thing Claire did after arriving at the office was open Ethan's employee records, not because she doubted him, because she needed to understand. She needed to know what she had missed. Her assistant, Olivia, stood beside her desk. Claire, yes. Are you sure you want to see these? Claire looked up. Why wouldn't I? Olivia hesitated. Because some of these documents are personal. Claire frowned. Personal? Olivia nodded. Ethan never wanted anyone to know. Those words made Claire uncomfortable. Never wanted anyone to know. That sounded exactly like Ethan. He never talked about what he did. He never asked for appreciation. He never reminded her of his sacrifices. Olivia placed a folder on the desk. Claire opened it. The first document was from 8 years ago, a financial agreement. Her company was still small, barely surviving. She read the details, then froze. Ethan invested. Olivia nodded. He used his savings. Claire stared at the document. No. Her voice was barely a whisper. He told me he was just helping with expenses. Olivia looked down. He didn't tell you. Claire shook her head. No. She turned the page. Another document. A loan payment. Another investment. Another sacrifice. All connected to her company. All connected to moments. She remembered the night she almost gave up. The month she couldn't pay office rent. The time she thought the company would collapse. She remembered those moments. But she remembered them differently. She remembered Ethan saying, "Don't worry. Everything will work out." She remembered thinking, "He's just being supportive." Now she understood, he wasn't just being supportive. He was carrying the burden with her. Her hands started trembling. How much? Olivia looked confused. What? How much did he give up? Olivia opened another file. Claire read silently, and every page hurt more than the last. Ethan declined a promotion. The promotion he had worked toward for years. Reason: unable to relocate due to wife's business needs. Ethan postponed graduate school. Reason: supporting spouse during company development stage. Ethan rejected a leadership position. Reason: needed flexibility to assist family responsibilities. Claire stopped reading because suddenly she couldn't breathe. All those years she thought Ethan was comfortable staying behind. She thought he had no ambition. She thought he was satisfied living in her shadow. But the truth was completely different. He had dreams. He had goals. He had a future he wanted. He just chose hers first. That afternoon, Claire led 3 meetings. Her assistant looked surprised. Claire, are you okay? She looked at the documents on her desk. No. Pause. I don't think I have been okay for a long time. For the first time in years. Claire wasn't thinking about her company. She wasn't thinking about growth. She wasn't thinking about expansion. She was thinking about Ethan. She remembered every time he smiled and said it's okay. Every time she was too busy to celebrate their anniversary. It's okay. Every time she forgot a promise. It's okay. Every time she chose work over him. It's okay. She always thought those words meant he didn't care. Now she realized those words meant he cared too much. That evening, Claire returned home. The house felt different. Not because anything had changed, because she had. She walked into the living room, the place where Ethan used to sit waiting for her. She looked at the empty chair and suddenly remembered something. 3 years ago, Ethan had an opportunity. A major company wanted him, a position with a higher salary, a better future. She remembered him mentioning it, but then he smiled and said, "It's okay. Maybe another time." At the time, she barely reacted. She was preparing for an important investor meeting. She had said, "Maybe this isn't the right time for you to make a change." Now those words came back. Maybe this isn't the right time for you. She covered her mouth because she finally understood there was always a right time for her, but never for him. That night, Claire opened her phone. She searched through old messages. Thousands of conversations. She scrolled back years. One message caught her attention from Ethan. 7 years ago, I got accepted for the leadership program. Her heart stopped. She kept reading, but I decided not to go. The schedule would conflict with your investor meetings. Then another message. Don't worry, I'm happy seeing you succeed. Claire stared at the screen. Tears fell because she finally saw the pattern. Ethan wasn't someone without dreams. He was someone who buried his dreams quietly so hers could grow. The next morning, Claire went to Ethan's old office, not his new workplace, the place where he had kept his things before leaving. She found a small box. Inside were notebooks, photos, old plans. One notebook had a title, Things Ethan Wanted to Do Someday. Claire opened it. Inside were simple dreams, travel, starting his own company, going back to school, building something with his own name. At the bottom of the page, one sentence was written. Maybe after Claire succeeds, I'll have time for myself. Claire's tears fell instantly because she finally understood. She wasn't the only one with dreams. She had just been the only one allowed to chase hers. That night, Claire sat alone, holding Ethan's notebook for the first time since becoming successful. She didn't feel proud. She felt ashamed because the person she thought was slowing her down was the reason she was standing where she was. Meanwhile, in Seattle, Ethan stood inside his new office, looking at a blank wall. A new beginning, a new life, a life where his choices finally belonged to him. His phone buzzed. A message from Claire. Only 4 words. I finally understand, Ethan. He stared at the screen for a long time. Then another message appeared. I was wrong. Ethan closed his eyes because those were the words he once wanted to hear. But now he didn't know if they were enough. And Claire didn't know that understanding why someone left was only the first step. The harder part was accepting that they might never come back. For 10 years I thought I knew Ethan Walker. I thought I knew his habits, his patience, his limits. I thought I knew exactly who he was. A quiet man, a supportive husband, someone who was happy standing beside me. But I was wrong. The truth was much harder to accept because Ethan wasn't someone who had no dreams. He was someone who gave up his dreams so I could chase mine. I spent the entire night reading everything inside that box. Every photo, every note, every unfinished plan, every piece of a life Ethan never lived. There was a picture from our first apartment. The apartment was tiny. The walls were old. The furniture didn't match. But we were smiling. Actually smiling. Not the kind of smile people show at company events. A real smile. The kind that comes when you have nothing but you have someone beside you. Behind the photo was a handwritten note. Ethan's handwriting. Simple, clear. Someday when Claire's company succeeds, I want to take her on the trip she always talks about. I froze because I remembered that trip. I remembered mentioning it years ago. A vacation to Italy. A dream we talked about when we were young. I thought Ethan forgot. I thought life simply got busy, but he didn't forget. He remembered everything. I turned to another page. A list. Things Ethan wanted to do. Start a business. Travel. Return to school. Learn something new. Build something with his own name. At the bottom, one sentence. After Claire reaches her dream, I'll finally have time for mine. I couldn't breathe because I knew what happened next. Claire reached her dream and I never noticed that Ethan was still waiting. The worst part wasn't discovering what he sacrificed. The worst part was remembering how I treated those sacrifices. I remembered the night he told me about his promotion opportunity. He was excited. Really excited. I hadn't seen that excitement in his eyes for a long time. Ethan, that's amazing. He smiled. I think so too. Then I looked at my calendar. My investor meeting was the same week. I sighed. Would you have to travel often? He nodded. Maybe. I remember saying that might be difficult. Just 4 words. That might be difficult. I didn't tell him not to go. I didn't force him. I simply made him feel like choosing himself would make my life harder. And Ethan being Ethan chose me. At the time I thought that was love. Now I understood. Love shouldn't mean one person disappears so the other person can shine. The next morning I went to the company early. Nobody had ever seen me arrive that early. My assistant looked surprised. Claire. I looked at her. Can you find Ethan's old files? She hesitated. What? I looked at the documents in my hand because I need to know how much I missed. For the next few hours, I discovered things I wished I had never known. The first major investor who believed in my company. Ethan had introduced me, the consultant who helped us restructure our business. Ethan had contacted him. The emergency loan that saved the company during our worst year. Ethan had personally guaranteed it. Every time I thought I survived a loan, Ethan had been there quietly without asking for credit. I always wondered why Ethan never talked about his achievements, why he never showed ambition, why he seemed comfortable being ordinary. Now I knew because every time he had a chance to step forward, he stepped back for me. That afternoon, I called him for the first time in weeks. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then he answered, "Hello." His voice was calm. Too calm. Ethan, a pause. "Claire, just my name. Nothing else. No anger, no sadness, no warmth." And somehow that hurt more than anger would have. I found the box. Silence. "You kept everything." Another silence. Then he said, "Yes." I closed my eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" His answer came immediately. "Would it have changed anything?" I had no response. Because I knew if he had told me 5 years ago, would I have stopped? Would I have noticed? Would I have chosen him? The silence answered for me. "Ethan," my voice broke. "I'm sorry." A long pause. Then I know those 2 words hurt because they weren't angry. They were accepting, like he had already forgiven me. "How can you just say that?" I whispered. "Say what?" "That you know." He was quiet for a moment, then said, "Because I never thought you were trying to hurt me." I held my breath. "I think you just forgot I was hurting." Tears filled my eyes because that was the truth. The hardest truth, "Ethan." "Yes." "Do you hate me?" Pause. "No." The answer came so quickly, almost instantly. And somehow that made it worse. "What?" I asked. "Because you were the person I loved." His voice softened. "But loving someone doesn't mean you stop feeling pain." I couldn't speak. "I should have told you." He continued. "I should have told you I was giving things up." Pause. "But I didn't want you to feel guilty." My tears fell. Because even after everything, he was still protecting me. "That's the problem, Ethan." My voice shook. "What?" "You spent 10 years protecting my dreams." I looked at the box, and I spent 10 years forgetting you had dreams too. Neither of us spoke. Finally, he said, "Claire, yes, I don't regret helping you." I closed my eyes because those words were exactly who Ethan was. He wasn't calling to make me feel guilty. He wasn't trying to make me suffer. He simply loved me even after leaving. "But I do regret one thing." My heart tightened. "What?" His voice became quieter. "I regret waiting so long to choose myself." The call ended. I sat there for a long time. Holding the phone, holding the box, holding the memories of a man I thought would always stay. That night, I made a decision for the first time. Not as a CEO, not as a successful woman, not as someone protecting her reputation. As Claire, I was going to find Ethan. Not to ask him to save me, not to ask him to sacrifice again, but because he deserved to hear the words I should have said years ago. "I'm sorry." The next morning, I flew to Seattle. I arrived at Ethan's new office. My heart was beating faster than it had in any business negotiation because for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to win something. I was afraid of losing someone. I walked toward the reception desk. The receptionist smiled. "Can I help you?" I took a breath. "I'm here to see Ethan Walker." She checked the schedule, then looked up. "I'm sorry." My heart sank. "What?" She hesitated. "Mr. Walker left 10 minutes ago." I looked toward the elevator doors closing in the distance. For a moment, I saw his back the same way I had seen it the night he left our marriage. I ran. "Ethan," the doors closed, and for the first time I understood what he had felt. The feeling of reaching for someone and realizing they were already gone. I used to believe that if you truly loved someone, you could always fix things. That was how I approached everything in life. Problems had solutions. Companies could recover. Mistakes could be corrected. Numbers could be changed. Plans could be rebuilt. That was why I became successful. I refused to accept failure. But Ethan taught me something success never could. Some things cannot be fixed by trying harder. Some things can only be accepted. The elevator doors closed before I reached them. "Ethan." My voice disappeared into the empty hallway. For a few seconds I just stood there breathing heavily, watching the numbers on the elevator screen slowly disappear. A year ago I would have been angry. I would have thought, how could he leave without talking to me? How could he ignore me? How could he walk away? But now I finally understood because that was exactly what I had done to him. Not in one moment, not intentionally, but slowly. Over years I walked back to the reception desk. The receptionist looked at me with sympathy. "Would you like to leave a message?" I opened my mouth then stopped. A message that was something I had sent Ethan thousands of times. Small messages, simple messages. "Can you pick up dinner? Can you handle this? Can you wait for me?" I had spent years asking Ethan to be there. Now, I didn't know what to say when I was the one asking him to listen. Yes, I finally said, "I'd like to leave a message." I took out my phone, typed, deleted, typed again. Nothing sounded right because no words could summarize 10 years. No apology could erase 10 years of being overlooked. Finally, I wrote, "Ethan, I finally understand." I stared at those words, then added, "You weren't holding me back. You were the reason I was able to move forward." I stopped. My fingers trembled because the next sentence was the hardest. "I'm sorry. I only realized after losing you I sent it." Then I waited 1 minute, 5 minutes, an hour, nothing. And for the first time, I experienced what Ethan must have felt all those years. Waiting for someone who didn't come. 3 days passed. Ethan didn't reply. The old Claire would have been frustrated. She would have demanded answers. She would have called repeatedly. But the person I was now understood. Ethan wasn't ignoring me. He was protecting himself. Meanwhile, my company continued operating. Meetings continued. Projects continued. People still called me a successful CEO, but everything felt different. During a board meeting, one executive asked, "Claire, should we proceed with the expansion plan?" Normally, I would have answered immediately. But this time, I looked at the documents, the numbers, the projections, the future. A year ago, I would have seen only opportunity. Now I saw something else. The cost, how many people had sacrificed so I could reach this point? How many people stood behind me while I stood in the spotlight? The answer was one person, Ethan. That evening, I returned home. The house was still mine. The company was still mine. The success was still mine. But somehow everything felt empty. I walked into the kitchen. And for the first time, I noticed something. The kitchen wasn't just a kitchen. It was where Ethan woke up early every morning. Where he made coffee, where he packed my lunch, where he left notes reminding me to eat. I opened a drawer. Inside was a small stack of old papers. Notes Ethan had written. I didn't even know they were there. The first one said, "Don't forget your presentation today. You know your idea better than anyone." Another, "I know you're nervous about the meeting, but remember, I saw your dream before anyone else did." Another, "You don't have to become someone else to be successful." I sat on the floor holding those notes, crying because that was the sentence I needed years ago. You don't have to become someone else. But I did. I became someone who forgot the person who loved me. A week later, I finally received a reply. One message from Ethan. "Claire, I read your message." My heart started beating faster. Then another message appeared. "Thank you for understanding." I waited. Another message. "But understanding doesn't change what happened." I closed my eyes because I knew. "Then I don't blame you." A tear fell. "I hope you become the person you wanted to become." I stared at the screen because even now he was wishing me success. Then the final message came. "But I hope you understand something too." I held my breath. "I wasn't waiting for you to choose me anymore." That sentence broke something inside me because it was the truth. The man who spent 10 years choosing me had finally stopped waiting for me to choose him. I booked another flight to Seattle, not because I expected forgiveness. Not because I thought I deserved another chance. I went because Ethan deserved to hear the truth face to face. When I arrived at his office again, he was there. This time he didn't leave. He stood near the window looking at the city, looking peaceful, different Ethan. He turned around for a moment. Neither of us spoke. He looked exactly the same but somehow completely different. "You came back." His voice was calm. I nodded. "Yes." "What?" The question was simple, but my answer took 10 years. Because I finally realized something. I looked at him. "You weren't the person stopping me from becoming successful." Pause. "You were the person who believed I could succeed before anyone else did." Ethan looked away. For a moment I saw pain in his eyes. Not anger. Pain. "I should have known." I whispered. "I should have seen it." He said nothing. "I don't expect you to forget." My voice shook. "I don't expect you to trust me again." I took a breath. "But I need you to know. I'm sorry." The room was silent. Then Ethan said, "Claire." "Yes, I forgave you a long time ago." My eyes filled with tears. But he looked at me. "But forgiveness is not the same as going back." And that was the moment I finally understood. Ethan wasn't trying to punish me. He wasn't trying to make me feel guilty. He wasn't trying to win. He had simply learned something I never understood. Love can survive mistakes. But sometimes the person who was hurt has to choose whether they still want the life they lost. And Ethan had already chosen. Before I left, I asked him one final question. "Do you still love me?" He was silent for a long time. Then he answered, "Yes." My heart stopped, but Claire, he looked at me. The person I loved spent 10 years choosing my happiness. Pause. The person who left me spent years choosing everything else. I couldn't argue because he was right. I walked out of Ethan's office knowing something painful. I had finally found the man who loved me more than anyone. But I found him after he learned how to live without me. There are moments in life when you finally get everything you once wanted. And somehow it still isn't enough. For years I dreamed about one thing. A simple life with Claire. A home, a family, a future where we would look back and say, we made it. But somewhere along the way the dream changed. Claire reached the top and I disappeared while helping her get there. After our conversation, Claire didn't leave immediately. She stood there quietly like she was trying to memorize the person standing in front of her. Maybe she was comparing me to the man she remembered, the man who always waited. The man who always said yes. The man who always put her first. But that man was gone. Not because I stopped loving her. Because I finally learned something. Love shouldn't require you to disappear. I understand. Claire finally said. Her voice was quiet. I understand why you can't come back. I looked at her. You do. She nodded. Yes. A small smile appeared. A painful one. Because I know what it feels like to lose someone who was always there. I didn't answer because she was right. She had lost me. But I had lost myself long before that. I spent years chasing success. She continued, I thought once I reached the top, everything would finally feel complete. She looked around the office, but I never realized the person who made the journey worth it was already gone. I looked away because those words hurt. Not because they were wrong, because a part of me still wished I had heard them earlier. Do you remember our first apartment? She asked. I smiled slightly. Yes, the broken heater. Yes, the terrible couch. I laughed softly. That couch was awful. For a moment we were not a divorced couple. We were just Ethan and Claire. Two people remembering when life was simpler. I used to think those years were embarrassing. Claire whispered. Living in a small apartment, struggling, having nothing. She looked at me. But now she paused. Those were the happiest years of my life. I didn't say anything because I knew why. Back then she didn't have success. She didn't have status. She didn't have everything. But she had someone who chose her every day. I wish I understood sooner. She said, I wish I knew that the person standing beside me wasn't a reminder of my past. Her eyes became red. He was the reason I had a future. The room became silent. A year ago those words would have changed everything. I would have held her hand. I would have told her we could start over. I would have forgiven everything. But time changes people. Not because they stop caring, because they learn. Claire. She looked at me. I need you to know something. She nodded. I never regretted loving you. Her eyes filled with tears. I never regretted helping you. I continued. Those years mattered to me. Then why? Her voice broke. Why can't we try again? That was the question I knew would come. The question I had asked myself many nights. I looked at her. Because she deserved the truth. Because I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering if you chose me. Pause. Or if you chose the memory of the person I used to be. She froze. I need someone who chooses me when life is difficult. I continued. Not someone who chooses me after realizing losing me was painful. Claire lowered her head. Tears fell, but she nodded. I understand. And that was the moment I knew she really had changed. Because the old Claire would have argued. She would have tried to convince me. She would have searched for a solution. The new Claire simply accepted my answer. Even though it hurt. Months passed. Life moved forward. My new job became everything I hoped it would be. For the first time in years I worked toward my own goals. Not because someone needed me to. Not because I was trying to support another dream. Because it was mine. I started building things, creating things, learning things I had postponed. I became someone I had almost forgotten existed. And Claire changed too. People noticed. Her employees noticed. Her company changed. She became a different kind of leader. Not someone chasing success at any cost. Someone who understood the people helping her. One day I saw an interview with her. The reporter asked, Claire, what was the biggest lesson you learned from success? I expected her to talk about business, growth, leadership. Instead, she said, the biggest lesson I learned is that success means nothing if you lose the people who loved you before you had it. I paused the video because even after everything, I knew she meant it. A year after our divorce was finalized, I received a letter from Claire. Not a message, not a phone call, a real letter. Inside was a single page. Ethan, I used to think losing you meant losing my past. Now I understand I lost the person who helped create my future. I don't know if there will ever be another chance for us, and I won't ask you to give me one. Because loving someone also means respecting the life they chose. Thank you for loving me when I was nobody. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. I'm sorry. I only understood your value after I lost you. I read the letter twice. Then I folded it carefully, not because I wanted to go back, because some memories deserve to be respected, even when they are over years later. Someone asked me, "Do you regret leaving Claire?" I thought about the girl I met in the coffee shop. The woman who dreamed of changing the world? The wife who forgot the person standing beside her? Then I answered, no. They looked surprised. Not even a little. I smiled. I regret that we lost each other. Pause. But I don't regret finding myself, because sometimes love is not about holding on forever. Sometimes love is accepting that two people can mean everything to each other and still need to walk different paths. Claire Bennett once believed Ethan Walker was the reason she couldn't move forward. But years later she finally understood the truth. He was never the person holding her back. He was the person who carried her until she could stand on her own. And Ethan Walker finally understood something too. The greatest sacrifice wasn't giving up his dreams for someone else. The greatest victory was finally allowing himself to have dreams.